It's good to see everybody on this Friday morning. Rosemary, would you like to get us off and running?
Thank you, Rob, and welcome everyone to our open table where we connect every week with respect for differences to act to end homelessness and to advocate for policies to ensure safe and secure housing for everyone. We gratefully acknowledge that we do this work on the traditional lands of the Puyallup people who've lived here since time immemorial and are still here today. They live and work, raise their children, take care of their communities, and practice their traditional ways and speak the Totutsi language just as their ancestors did. Today, I bring a few thoughts on advocacy. During the meeting, we'll hear about legislative priorities and how to bring our voices to the development of supportive public actions for immediate and long-range housing needs. And we'll talk with each other about our own plans for advocacy and learn a little bit of how to do it better. And advocacy is an old idea that comes from that Latin word advocare, which means to add voices. And it can also mean things like lobbying, standing up for rights, fighting for change, championing a cause, changing the system, those sorts of things. And we use the word as a shorthand way to describe acting to support things that are important to us, sometimes with other people, sometimes with a lot of planning, sometimes out of a deep sense that we just can't stay silent anymore. And it makes me wonder why we so often choose to keep silent or stay silent until we feel compelled or that we have to add our voice. To understand this, I'm drawn to the work of Audre Lorde, a Black feminist and one of my favorite writers. I've shared some of her words before, and when I was teaching sociology at a small rural university in Eastern Oregon, I had a poster on my wall that had a quotation from her, a talk she gave in 1979 at a New York feminist conference. She said, quote, "When I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, then it becomes less and less important whether I'm afraid." That poster served as a persistent pep talk when I found myself being silent about important but difficult issues. And with these words, she restated what she had imagined earlier in 1978 poem called A Litany for Survival. I think I've shared it here before, but she reminds herself as a person living at the margins of power that when we speak, we're afraid, our words will not be heard nor welcomed. When we're silent, we're still afraid. So it's better, she said, to speak, remembering that we were never meant to survive. So this assessment of silence as fear resonates with me. In those times, I judge that I've not spoken if my speaking might make things uncomfortable for someone else, or I wonder what negative will happen if I have a different position on a subject, since I'm not an expert in very much, or when the differences between us just seem too great. Lorde died of cancer at 58 in 1992, and as she reached the end of her life, she spoke even more strongly about the effects of silence and the power of living into speech in spite of differences, even when we are afraid. Her words challenge us to add our voices in the public arena, persistently and insistently demanding action on the humanitarian crisis of housing and homelessness we see before us every day. We can learn to work and speak when we're afraid, she said. In the same way, we have learned to work and speak when we're tired. For we have been socialized to respect fear more than our own need for change and language definition. And while we wait in silence for that final luxury of fearlessness, the weight of the silence, she said, will choke us. Finally, the fact that we're here, she says, and that I speak these words is an attempt to break the silence and bridge some of the differences between us. For it is not difference that immobilizes us, but silence, and there are so many silences to be broken. So welcome everyone to breaking the silences and adding our voices to this important topic today. So welcome to the coalition meeting. And just for those of you who are new, a couple of points about how we run our meetings. We ask that people keep themselves on mute when they're not speaking, and that you stop your video if you're doing other things that might be distracting. And then we have the chat as an option to use here for discussion and questions and updates, resources, putting your name in there and your contact information if you're interested in something or come today in the hopes of having a connection with someone on a topic that is important to you. And so we ask that you use for that function. It can go pretty fast sometimes, so you might have to pay attention in case someone's trying to contact you directly. We save the chat and it's available on our website at a later date. You can also save it yourself. And we have a list of community norms that usually Rob puts in the chat for you to see. And these are the basic norms of respect for our differences, since we do not expect everyone to agree. We do not expect everyone to have the same amount of things to say, but we want to make sure everyone does have a chance and that we are respectful in our disagreements about policies and issues. So with that, I'd like to welcome anyone who's new today, just to let us know that you're here. Say your name if you're related to an organization or an activity of some kind. You can mention that. It's not a time for a general introduction, but just so we know that you're here and that we want to welcome you very much to our space. So if you want to raise your hand, the raise hand function, I think I forgot to say to do that. Use that function on the computer here or on the website, a Zoom site, to let us know that you'd like to speak. And so Amber, let's start with you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Amber. I use she, her pronouns. I am the new director here at Arlington Youth Drive with the 18 to 24-year-old youth campus that we have here in Pierce County and Tacoma in partnership with Tacoma Housing Authority. So been part of the King County meetings, but not in Pierce County. So
well, welcome to joining us. Look forward to hearing your experience and how we can be a connection.
thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Mindy.
I just want to introduce myself. My name is Mindy McCoy. I'm new to Washington. I'm the new community advocate at Rebuilding Hope, the Sexual Assault Center for Pierce County. And I'm just looking to network and kind of navigate Washington and find out what spaces I want to volunteer in and get involved in and just network with people and get involved. I mean, I just want to be involved and be the best advocate for my agency and just be a community partner. And so that's why I'm here. Thank you for having me.
Welcome, Mindy. And that's a dangerous thing, of course, to say, but I hope you'll find this space a welcome one. All right. Well, if you are new or returning from being a long time away and want to connect with people, be sure to put your information in the chat and any information that would help others connect with you. Rob, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Rosemary, and thank you as always for getting us started down the path for today's meeting. So let's shift to our first regular standing item that we do every week, and that is talking about what's happening on the streets this week. This is a segment of the meeting where we urge those who are doing direct outreach or those who are just observing the changes in the needs in your own neighborhoods to share what you're seeing, what might be needed out there in the community across Pierce County, and share how the group of 53 people in this room might be able to help, whether it's with supplies or other support. To put this week in the streets for this week in context, we're going to be looking at some wet weather coming in over the weekend and some windy weather, but the overnight temperatures are due to be quite cold again next week. So I would anticipate right now the forecast is looking like there's a number of days next Thursday through Sunday where we could see temperatures in the mid to upper 20s at night. So cold weather gear will be much needed again by next week. And so that's a little bit of context for today's conversation. So just use the raise hand function or raise your physical hand so I can see it, and let me know if you would like to share about what you're seeing on the streets. Yeah, Bob.
Good morning. The last 3 weeks in the Gig Harbor Key Peninsula communities, we have identified 10 new homeless families. 3 single men, 3 families with kids, and 3 women. That's a huge increase for us. And I think the weather has something to do with it. But TRM has 2 of the parents with kids set up in temporary housing. Jessica at Greater Lakes is embracing 3 others, working with them. The other three have not been interested in help yet, but we're, as a community, reaching out and providing them with tents and tarps and food. But it looks like we're unfortunately starting to hit the peak, and glad we have at least a little bit of community support system set up. So that's it.
Thanks, Bob. Sorry to hear that there's an increase in the number of folks you're seeing there. Hopefully, supplies can get out to them with the cold coming, just so that they're able to get through. Anyone else with updates from on the streets this week? Paula, anything you would share from East Pierce County?
How did you know I was just going to do that?
Mind reading.
Yeah, that's scary, Rob. If you knew what else was in my mind, that would be scary. No, I'm just kidding. So we're seeing an influx of people here at New Hope. I'm assuming that they're new people. So I'm assuming that they're coming from some of the sweeps that are happening. Also, we continue to supply lunches here at New Hope. People come in, they can get warmed up from 8 a.m. until we close around 3. They're able to do that, get clothing. I wanted to let all the outreach teams know, I just received yesterday boxes of gloves and scarves, and there are a few beanies. I need to order some more, but as part of what we're doing is being a supply place for outreach groups. If they want to come and get those items, I just wanted to let you know I received about 400 of those. So we're started on that, being able to hand those out to whoever wants them. So just wanted to update you all on that.
Great, thank you, Paula. And I see Alan Brown on the screen as well. Alan, any updates you can offer for how things have been going at the day center?
We've been steadily busy. I will say that we just got in a big donation of coats and winter wear from Zoomies just yesterday.
Good. Just in time for the upcoming cold, so that's great news. Great news. Let's see, anybody else with an on the streets update? Richard, anything you'd like to share from what you've been seeing?
No, just more of the same. We've been doing a fair number of coats lately, and just keeping an eye on things, getting ready for next week with more cold weather. But we've been hitting the Goodwill outlet pretty hard, getting inexpensive, good quality winter coats.
Good, that's great. All right, so if anyone else has things they would like to share in regard to what they're seeing on the streets, please feel free to use the chat. I will paste the link to the city's website where I think it was Matthew last week from the city, who I see is on the call, shared the link to this page. It shows the schedule of the city sweeps and the clearances that are scheduled, or notifications that are scheduled related to the camping ban. And so yeah, Timothy, I'll take a look at that story as well. I don't think I watched that one yet. But as you know, the camping ban went into effect in the middle of November, and right now postings are happening across the city in those buffer zones, 10-block buffer zones around city sanctioned sites that are in existence. It looks like so the posting is all done around the site at 35th and Pacific. The postings should be done next week potentially around the Tacoma Stability site down on Puyallup Avenue. And it looks like postings may have already started around Bethlehem Baptist Church. So Matthew, maybe you can address that when you give the city update here a little bit later. Before we close out our On the Streets section, I want to remind folks about the Need and Share spreadsheet where folks can offer an update about what needs they have and also share supplies that they may have. Jay, do you want to do a quick mention of that and share the spreadsheet with folks in the chat?
Yep, I'm pulling up the spreadsheet right now. It is the second tab at the bottom of the spreadsheets when you open them up. The first spreadsheet you'll see where is kind of like instructions to use the rest. On the second page, go ahead and just scroll down. It looks like it's in reverse currently to where it starts in October at the bottom and goes up. Just go ahead and go to the bottom and add whatever you need to. If you have something priorly put at the top, put that you're updating or put an update date by the prior entry so we know that it's been reviewed, that it is correct as of today. So hopefully all things should have a up to date today and have been updated at the bottom of the list and state so with today's date so that we can see what is current. So as long as we have that information, that's great. If you have a hard time with the data sheets or you just don't have time, go ahead and make a list with numbers of what you have or what you need and email it to the inclement weather listserv. Thank you.
And that's a great reminder, Jay, for me to make sure that everybody in the room here today is aware of that new listserv. I think we mentioned it last week's meeting, but if you go to the pchomeless.org site and scroll to look at the top of the page where there's the link that says listserv, you can click on that link and go in, put your email address in, and you'll see the number of different coalition related mailing lists that you can join. The newest mailing list is the inclement weather listserv. So if you have an interest in helping respond to inclement weather, whether it's the cold right now or heat and smoke in the summer, consider joining that listserv. And it's a way for folks to send a message to a large group of folks who have a common interest around helping people during the bad weather. Jay.
One other thing, if you just got a shipment of donation, we're trying to track those donations so that we have a number of what has come in and what goes out for DEM and other responses. So even if you don't want to share it and you don't need anything else, if you have donations that you're using for cold weather and or inclement weather, please also add that to that shares needs page. Just say no need, no share, just data or just information or whatever may have you to say that that is separate from the rest so that I know what is going in and what's going out. And we're trying to get something together by the 15th for DEM and Human Services so that they can see how much we actually use and what we're going through so that they can start preparing accurately for inclement weather events versus cold weather events and give us all a little bit more breathing room with these weather situations. So the more information we have, the better. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jay. And as Garrett pointed out in the chat, DEM is the Pierce County Department of Emergency Management. So thanks for doing that, Garrett. On your last day as a county employee. Congratulations, by the way. All right, so let's see. I don't see, so the next thing on our agenda is a community spotlight about Hunter Homes and Shelters. I don't see Elena on the call. Elena, are you here? All right, maybe Elena will join us a little bit later. So we'll shift away from that. And I also don't yet see my coworker from the Housing Alliance, Poe, on the call yet. So I'm going to shuffle our agenda just a little bit and ask if Cynthia Stewart, would you like to go before Poe in terms of the advocacy topics?
Sure, I can do that. So give me 1 second to get organized because I wasn't quite ready, but it won't.
Yeah,
take,
no,
so,
not a
hold on.
problem.
So let's see. Okay. So I want to say thank you for the opportunity to do this. My name is Cynthia Stewart, and for a number of years I have worked on issues of housing and homelessness, not only here, but at the state legislature, representing the League of Women Voters of Washington, and closely in conjunction with the Washington Low Income Housing Alliance, for whom Rob now works, and Poe, who will be talking to you later. And one of the things that I do with the League here in Pierce County is talk with various groups about how they can have an impact by becoming active with their city councils, the county council, and or the legislature. And I want to acknowledge that some of you know this stuff really well already. So these comments are really addressing people who haven't spoken with elected officials before. And I'm really directing my comments to what is coming up next week, as opposed to a broader discussion of advocacy. So for next week's conversation with some legislators and some county council members, you will be assigned randomly to a group, not knowing in advance which elected official will be in that group. So I think I'm suggesting that you plan ahead for either case, either a county council member or a legislator. And here are some simple things you can do between now and next week so that your time with the elected official is well used. One important thing to know is that elected officials are used to no more than 15-minute meetings with individuals or groups, which is not much time. And testimony in committees, particularly in the legislature, is typically limited to less than 3 minutes. And frequently lately, the legislature has requested that people giving testimony do it in only 1 minute. So think about how in the world you convert a very complex topic and request down to 59 or 60 seconds. Getting your point across effectively and quickly requires some advanced work. So next week, there will be about 20 minutes in breakout groups with the elected officials, and they want to know in that session, what is important to you? So I'm going to share my screen and provide, oh, it says it's disabled.
Let me fix that for you. You now have that ability.
Thank you. Okay. So here we go. So basically, meeting with legislators requires some planning ahead. And by legislators, I mean legislators in the local government as well as the state legislature, the legislative branches, your city council or your county council. So planning ahead is super important. Think about what is your overall message? What is the story that you want to tell to illustrate the message? And stories have become, people talk now about the word narrative. Narrative has become frequently used as a way to convey something by giving an illustration that's very personal and emotional. And then think about why this message is important. So then craft your message. So define the issue that you want to talk about. Say why it's important to you. Tell the legislator why they should care, and then tell the legislator what you want them to do. So it's pretty simple. And this is a blurry image, but it's something that I've gathered from years and years and years ago, and I've been using it a lot. I want you to look at the hand and not try to look at the words on the image in the middle. If you think about how to do this, put your hand up. Your thumb is introduce yourself. Your first finger is what is your issue? Second finger is why you care. The third finger is why the legislators should care. And then what are you asking them to do? And so I think this hand is a really good image to kind of remember how to do it and to plan ahead. So, and the final thing I want to leave you with is be sure to say thank you, both in the meeting next week, but also send a follow-up note. Get your legislators' email and send them a note saying, I met you at the coalition, I was in the small group, and I want to thank you, and then reiterate your message. Same with the Pierce County Council members, if you get to talk with any of them. So that's really all I have to say right now, and I'm going to stop my share and see if anybody has any questions. It's very simple. I think another key point to remember is legislators are just like us. They're just regular people. The only difference is that they're under some pressure. They're under pressure to try to figure out among all the competing interests, what is the most important thing for them to do. So that's, you shouldn't be afraid of them in any way. Just kind of recognize that their job is a little bit different than yours. So I will stop there. I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, I think so, Cynthia. And it might not be clear to everybody in the room that one of the things we're devoting the majority of next week's meeting to is this meeting with local elected officials. And so that was why we thought it was important to kind of queue up this topic ahead of that conversation, just to let everybody know about an hour of next week's meeting will be devoted to that from about 9:30 to 10:30. So we wanted to give everybody an opportunity to be a little bit prepared for those conversations and ahead of time. So it'd be great if anybody has any questions. Yeah, Rosemary.
This isn't a question, but I've been emailing legislators for their ability to attend. And right now we have either 7 or 8 folks who will come who represent the 25th, the 26th, 27th, the 28th, the 29th legislative districts, and represent 2 of the re-elected or new council members to the Pierce County Council. And we have 3 senators and 3 representatives. So we'll have a wide spread of responsibilities and areas to which people are accountable, that we can think about these messages too. You won't be necessarily in a group with your own representative, but the points that Cynthia makes are still really powerful, and I really appreciate the idea of following up. I wanted to make one comment about the kinds of responses that can be made also publicly, since we have columns in the newspaper that often get people responding in ways that are not very helpful. So while that isn't a legislative comment, we could always amplify the voice of a legislator who's supporting something we care about by making those comments in public places too. Thank you, Cynthia.
Anyone with any questions? And also know you can drop things in the chat, because I believe we can address questions there if you don't want to do it on screen or in public. But I do look forward to next week's meeting and appreciate you queuing it up for us, Cynthia.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at our agenda, and I don't see Poe yet joining us. So I haven't heard from him yet this morning, so I'm not sure if he is having technical issues. But let's go ahead and move on to other items on our agenda, and hopefully if Poe arrives, we'll flip back over to that. So I didn't see. Looking at who's in the meeting. Rosemary, would you like to talk briefly about an update on what's happening with the affordable housing sales tax that's been proposed at the Pierce County level?
I can, last week I spoke a bit about this in an overview way. And so a number of us went to the Pierce County Human Services Committee meeting this last Tuesday. where they did pass it on to the full council with a do pass resolution. That was majority in the committee, not unanimous. And so the next meeting for this tax will be a vote taking this coming Tuesday at the regular Pierce County Council meeting. And those of you who are new to the area wouldn't know this, but Pierce County's charter requires that for funding issues, there be a supermajority of votes in favor. So it's a 7-member council and it requires 5 members of the council to vote to approve. So it's not a simple majority. And at this point, there are 4 votes that support this new tax and they need 5. So it's a matter of who might be a person who's not a tax supporter in general, who might be willing to support this tax. There are other parts to this story. And yesterday, Matt Driscoll presented a column in the Tacoma News Tribune, which if you haven't seen it, I recommend that you do it. And I would recommend, and this is what I was mentioning kind of previously, to tell someone like Matt Driscoll that you liked what he had to say is an important thing to do publicly. So this is not, and also you could at the same time support the council members who are put this forward, because they've taken a political gamble at this time that it's worth trying. And what I liked at one of the last meetings we had, when a group of us that's called Revenue for Housing, which is basically the group I'm reporting for, we met to describe what we were wanting to do in this last week of trying to get people on board and to come on Tuesday and testify, is something that Beth Dolio, who was responsible to be the prime sponsor of the Bill 1590 in the legislature that made it possible for local jurisdictions to pass this tax without having it to go to the constituents, she made a comment, and I see Cynthia's ready to comment too, but a comment about Cynthia saying persistence is the idea here. And even if we don't get this passed this time, it's the beginning and the middle and the later part of a campaign where it's obvious that we need more community resources to leverage the money that is available in other places to create the housing we need. So that's the short of the update. There may be more in the Tribune. I encourage you to pay attention, because there are efforts to ensure that a local paper provides information to people who may not know about the ramifications of this tax. So thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary. And Cynthia, your hand's up.
So I just want to supplement what Rosemary just said. Number one, the last point, there will be an op-ed in the paper on Sunday, I believe. So that will be important to keep an eye on and support that as well. Just additional background about this local option sales tax. It's very, it doesn't cost much for most of us, but it generates a lot of money for the county, and they can use it for matching federal and state grants and for public-private partnerships. The tax was actually authorized way back in 2015. The League of Women Voters did a study on behavioral health back then, because there was a second tax for behavioral health that was authorized at the same time. But it wasn't until Beth's ordinance in 2020, or statute in 2020, that changed it from a public vote to a councilmanic vote, that the Pierce County Council finally adopted the behavioral health tax. But for some darn reason, they just can't seem to get their heads around this housing tax. But it could be extremely valuable. One of the arguments I've heard is from some of the people in this group, frankly, is that it's regressive and it will penalize those at the lowest income. And I just want to point out that it's only on taxable purchases. So many people at the lowest income level are not buying a lot of frivolous things, for sure. And the money will be dedicated to helping the people at 60% AMI and below. So it will be very beneficial to people at low income, and the rest of us should chip in and do this. So please, please, please let your county council members know this weekend that you want them to do this on Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary and Cynthia, for queuing that up. This is an important vote. So if there's an opportunity to attend that meeting next week at 3 p.m. and make public comment, there's a real opportunity there to make an impact and potentially lead to additional dollars coming into our county. All right, so I still, excuse me, don't see Poe in the room. So let's shift and do our breakout conversation. But before we do that, Timothy, would you like to do the review of last week's breakout conversation topic?
Yeah, happy to do that. Let me grab that and stick it in the chat. So
I'll share it on
easy for
screen.
people that want to grab it. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so what we talked about was the affordable housing sales tax. So this actually comes at a pretty great spot in the agenda. I'll just briefly summarize the talking points that people raised and some of the questions and concerns that were also raised around it. The talking points won't be news to many people. The urgent need for new resources for housing, housing being a human right, essential to a healthy community, the importance of talking about the cost effectiveness of prevention and funding prevention, the difference that makes, the impact trade-off, where you have a relatively small impact upon the individual, but a large impact upon the community with this tax. Not so much focusing on the tax itself, which is something that is generally unpopular for a variety of reasons, but focusing on the outcomes and what this is going to make possible. Some of the concerns that came up were also kind of unsurprising. There was a request for an elevator speech on this. I don't know if maybe somebody feels like typing that into the chat. The usual conversation about the unpopularity of taxes, particularly regressive taxes, and the lack of options around that, yada, yada, yada. Transparency, talking about the importance of transparency around this, and excuse me, a suggestion that the effectiveness of the behavioral health tax, that people talk about that and maybe provide some information about that to help make the case. And also talking about the vulnerability at this period of folks who are elderly and on fixed income and disabilities and that sort of thing, and who this is really gonna impact. And then there were a whole category of notes that I kind of interpreted as county politics. And frankly, the notes were kind of telegraphic, and I didn't really understand them well enough to be able to explicate them, but there they are for those who know what they are. And that's about it.
Thanks as always, Timothy, for putting those together
Always my joy.
and taking a crack at that, the comments about county politics.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, let's shift over to actually hold today's breakout discussion. And what we wanted to do was to ask folks in the networking / breakout sessions and small groups to talk about what you're prepared to advocate for in 2023, and what do you need to feel like you can be successful as an advocate. So I think what Cynthia just shared is a good primer on the how to talk to your elected officials. What else can you use? I did see, in Timothy's notes, the idea of an elevator speech for given topics. And that's the sort of thing that we would love to hear from people. If there are specific topics or those kinds of things that you want to discuss in the breakout groups, let us know. As always, we'll go into breakout rooms here with 5 or 6 people in every room. And please assign someone in the room to take some notes, so you can come back here after our 15 minutes of networking. We'll ask whoever the note taker was to put those notes into the chat so Timothy can do a summary. The key is whoever's taking notes, the summary is only going to be as good as the notes that are put in the chat. So please spend some time with that if you have the opportunity. And let me get our breakout rooms started. Let's see here. So we'll have 10 rooms this morning. And we will come back here just a little bit before 10 a.m. So I will let you all know about a minute before. All right, away we go. I hope this is a good conversation for everyone. All right, welcome back, everyone. Hopefully that was a good conversation and there was enough time there to talk about both what you're willing to advocate about and what needs you have to be more effective. So those who took notes in the different rooms, if you could paste those notes when you have them pulled together in the chat, that would be really helpful. Thank you, room 1, Adam, for pasting that in there. And just so to be clear, it's great if you know your room number, but that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is just so we get the notes from your chat room. So let's shift over to our government updates. And Matthew, I see your camera's still on. Are you doing the update for the city of Tacoma this week?
Yes, I am. Caleb's out again this week. Morning, everyone. Matthew Jorgensen with the Neighborhood and Community Services Department with the city of Tacoma. I wanted to give you guys a few updates, but I'll start with the encampment cleanup just because that came up earlier. As you see on the website, the area around the stability site is scheduled to be given notice next. But I just heard that it sounds like that might be on pause as far as the actual encampment cleanup goes until the new year. So they'll be giving folks notice, but it sounds like the actual encampment cleanup work won't start until January. And then just a heads up, on Tuesday next week at noon, our department will be giving our quarterly homelessness update to city council at their study session. So you might want to tune into that, see what we're working on now, what we're going to be working on in the future. And then additionally, some good news. I saw Tammy was on here earlier. I don't know if she is now, but we did have the fire department fire marshal go to Fob Hope yesterday and kind of sign off on those heaters being used in the tents, which is great news for those folks staying down there so they can stay warm. So I'll put my contact info in the chat if you guys have any questions or want to talk offline, but that's all I have for today. Thank you, Rob. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Matthew. And Chiquata, I saw you wanted to give a quick city update as well.
Yes, thank you, Rob. As many of you probably know, I'm Chiquata Elder with the City of Tacoma's Office of Equity and Human Rights, and I'm actually the landlord tenant coordinator. So we provide information and referrals to both landlords and tenants, but we're also tasked with writing and updating the City of Tacoma's rental housing code. And so, and we're in the process of doing that. And I believe Cece from your group, is she still here, Rob?
I see her in the room right now. Yeah.
Is the representative for your organization. So what I kind of wanted to stress is we're getting ready to do our education and outreach component to the community around the proposed housing changes, the rental housing code changes. And one of the things that we are focusing on in our rental housing code is shared housing. And so, and that's not like to put too many regulations on it to where people don't want to do it. It's more about ensuring that tenants are living in safe, habitable housing. If a landlord has a master lease and the tenants are paying their rent to the landlord and they're not paying it to the owner, that the tenants aren't surprised if an eviction process starts. And it's about not overcrowding or renting spaces that aren't habitable. So we just want to make sure that there are some protections for people that are living in the rental housing unit, but then also with the landlords who have tenants in there. So we're going to start doing some outreach. And so CC will be coming back to you guys. I don't know how you guys do it, like with updates. And so we'll be asking for input from each of you or from your organization on the proposed changes, but then also we may be asking you guys to, like, when we have to go before council, to be at those meetings and things like that as well, to speak, because shared housing is becoming some people's only option these days. And we don't want people being illegally evicted and then becoming homeless or living in situations that make them sick or is dangerous to their health or the community. So that's all I have. And we'll keep you guys updated on our outreach plan.
Would it be helpful to do an outreach meeting to this group, to the coalition?
I could, yeah, we can come in and do one and just kind of like get information that way. We're planning to do some, what are those things called? When you have like small groups?
Like a charrette type thing, or
you know, the little
Focus
the
group.
breakouts?
Yeah, like, yeah, kind of that around with some landlords who do shared housing type things. We're trying to get some small mom and pop landlords in and things like that. So we can definitely come to your group and hold a session and get feedback that way.
Yeah, that would be great. Just let me know when it would be a good timing for that, and it'd be a good thing for us to do during one of our Friday meetings if it works for you.
And then on top of that, just it'll be very helpful if you guys would carve out some time for CC every now and then to kind of let you guys know like what we worked on and get your input that way, so she can report back to us as we write the code. Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And there's CC on screen. Good to see you, CC. All right. So let's shift over to updates from Pierce County Human Services. Jeffrey?
Is Jeff on the call still? I know he had talked about he might have to jump off real quick.
Okay.
Okay, so I have his update. I have his
Okay,
update.
go ahead.
So homeless point in time count 2023 is January 26th. So you can still sign up to volunteer. I will post the link in the website. If you've seen the amazing video that I am in, it is making its rounds again on social media. So please share that and let's get as many volunteers as necessary. We're looking at between 300 and 400 needed. I know last I heard, which was a few days ago, we were up to 80. So please volunteer. I will be putting in the link. I signed up already for Thursday night, and Friday. So that is the count. That is the update as Jeff Rogers has asked me to provide it.
Thank you, Valerie. And yes, you did an awesome job in that video. That hopefully will help lead to more folks volunteering this year. And you said the goal is to get to 300 or 400 volunteers. That's what we had kind of for pre-COVID.
Yeah,
time counts, right?
Back to our yeah, because there was a lot of areas missed, and which is hard. It's hard to get volunteers during COVID, right? So we're looking to really expand out, make sure that we cover some areas. Like Key Peninsula has an amazing team that goes out and covers a lot of the Key Peninsula, but if we can expand those numbers into like Fife area, that would be great. There's also some information on donating. So we're looking for hats, scarves, gloves, blankets, and hand warmers as well. And that information, there's 3 different drop-off sites on that website also.
Thank you, Valerie.
You're welcome.
And since you're on, is there anything you would like to give us an update on related to rental assistance?
No changes from last week. We're busy training our new person all week, and she's amazing. So hopefully I'll be able to do an introduction of Caress here very soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Valerie.
You're welcome.
So let's see. Updates from the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department team. And I see Jenny and I see Isaiah on the screen. Who wants to go first? Yeah, Jenny, go ahead.
Okay, hey everybody. Good morning. Glad to be with you as always. It was really great to meet some folks in real life at the Collaboration for a Cause event last week. That was really fun. So as far as COVID, our hospitalizations are still really low. We did see an uptick in hospitalization the last week of November. We have had no shelter outbreaks in many, many weeks. The CDC just published results from a study on the effectiveness of the bivalent booster, and data show that it's very helpful against infection. So get boosted. I'm going to reach out to our congregate shelter sites to try and do monthly vaccine clinics in Q1 of 2023 to see if we can use some of those COVID funds we still have and get more folks boosted. I know we sound like a broken record, but 'tis the season for respiratory diseases. We've got flu, RSV, and COVID all circulating. So I'm sure if you have not had the flu recently, and I hope you haven't, you know someone who has, and seems like it's been pretty nasty. So get a flu shot, encourage others to do so. The flu shot is pretty effective this year. I will share our main flu webpage. I also encourage folks to wear a mask if you have symptoms of a respiratory illness. I'm really hoping that kind of silver lining or a positive thing that comes out of this whole COVID experience is that it will normalize wearing masks a little bit, because I think that can really help us protect others, not just in their, because of our emergency with COVID being such a concern, but with other respiratory illnesses, colds and flus, etc. I'm going to share, as far as some community resources, I'm going to share a flyer for free adult vaccinations, locations where folks can get vaccinations across the county. Also want folks to be aware that we're working with Community Healthcare's Hilltop location. They have flu vaccines for the uninsured and underinsured, so please refer folks there for flu shots if needed. And then the Medical Reserve Corps, who we work closely with, sort of an arm of our department, had a successful event at Tacoma Rescue Mission yesterday and did offered several adult vaccinations. Got 14 guests vaccinated there, which was great. We love working with them. I also want folks to be aware, and I don't have a flyer or a link yet, but maybe you can jot this down and save the date. Tacoma Needle Exchange, in collaboration with PCAF, Pierce County AIDS Foundation, are hosting an event January 9th and 10th at Urban Grace Church, which is downtown. And I'm waiting on details of all the services that will be offered there, but it's PCAF, it's our STD team, and Tacoma Needle Exchange all participating. So there should be testing and other resources available, and I will keep folks updated as I learn more about that. Finally, want to share just a few administrative things. I'm working with our communications, and we'll be working with our cross-divisional group to create a department webpage, which will sort of hopefully serve as like a one-stop shop for homeless service providers to find resources from our department. So right now, everything's sort of disease specific, like you have to go look for COVID things, you have to go look for STD things or treatment services things. And so we're going to try and create a space where someone at an agency who's working with folks in this community could go and see all those links to all those resources in one place. If you have suggestions on what should live there on that page, we're open to that. And then finally, if you are not getting the approximately twice monthly emails that come out from us that have been from me, but will be from me and Isaiah and others moving forward, please let me know, and I will add you to the list to receive those updates. Any questions or concerns before I hand it over to Isaiah? All right, thanks, folks. It's always good to be with you.
Thanks, Jenny.
Hi, folks. So I'm still pretty new, so I'm not sure if you all met me, but I'm Isaiah Crowcroft, and I am with the health department in the environmental health division as the homeless liaison. Not too many updates from my end. Honestly, I'm still doing a lot of on the ground work, just trying to understand what we at the health department do and putting all the pieces together, but I do have a few things to share out with some folks. I'm currently trying to organize a clothing drive. We did have one a few weeks back over the Pierce County Tacoma Health Department but we're trying to make that a more sustainable thing moving forward. Before we gave it, I believe, to Springbrook, one of the communities down over in Lakewood. But I'm working to try and organize that to make it a little bit more broad here at the health department, so people can give away things like gloves and hats and things like that, so that can be a more consistent kind of rollout. So that's something I'm working on. Earlier this week, I'm not sure if Tammy is in here, but I actually toured Fort Hope and I was able to meet Tammy, who's wonderful. I was able also to meet Brenda Lilly, who is on our medical, well, not our medical reserve team, but on the medical reserve team, just kind of getting some more information on the ground of what's going on in terms of our house's neighbors, in terms of environmental health, just kind of chatting. So if you have any interest in me attending one of your sites, like a shelter or a housing program that you want me to come visit and just like chat with folks, I'm always happy to do that. I really think that like this work has to be done like on the ground. So I'm really ready and able to be there and support y'all with that. On top of that, more administrative, I'm trying to just organize our cross-divisional group, as Jenny mentioned. So Jenny and I are working together to kind of get the internal department or sub-department of the Housing and Homelessness Services here in the Tacoma Pierce County Department to be a little bit more firmed up. We have like a weekly meeting. It's been relatively new. I believe Jenny and Adam kind of created it back in the summer, but my job is going to be moving forward to kind of organize it and just have a more set like agenda and a more set project. So that's a little bit more of what we're doing internally. But yeah, that's currently all I have. I did want to ask folks, like, since I'm still pretty new to this position and I'm still pretty new to these meetings, like if people can share with me like what's most helpful in terms of like updates, especially as it might regard to environmental health. So if anyone has thoughts about that, you can hop on or even like share it in the chat, but I would love to hear feedback from folks.
Thanks, Isaiah. Any questions for or comments for Isaiah right now? Or again, you can put them in the chat. Anybody have anything? Yeah, Courtney.
Hi, Isaiah. I'm just going to suggest that you slow down just a little bit. Some of your words blended, but I got the bulk of it. I don't need any repeats, but.
No, that's fair. I'm a fast talker, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Efficient talker. That's what that is. All right. Anyone else with any questions for Isaiah? Okay. Thank you, Isaiah, for the updates, and great to see you on the call again. Let's see. I don't think I saw anyone from Pierce County Department of Emergency Management, but just let's have a little bit of opportunity if somebody is here and wants to jump in. All right. Not hearing that. So let's shift to a quick update from the Safe Sites for All committee. And Rosemary, did you want to share here about, speaking of Department of Emergency Management, or I can do it. I don't mean to put you on the spot. I did want to share that Ivan from the Department of Emergency Management reached out to Jan Runback and asking if we could so back up a step. Last winter and summer, when we had inclement weather situations, hot and cold weather, where it was severe enough that the Emergency Operations Center opened, DEM, Department of Emergency Management, invited a couple of members from the coalition to work from the Emergency Operations Center to help ensure that people who were concerned about people who are living homeless currently were going to be accommodated during the hot or cold weather incidents that were going on. And I even reached out to Jan earlier this week to try to further formalize that arrangement. This led to a conversation at the Coalition Steering Committee meeting on Wednesday, and we agreed to appoint a couple of folks who will fulfill that role going forward. And it's not really something that we needed to vote on, but I just wanted to share it with the full coalition that if those kinds of incidents take place going forward, the two folks that we're going to have representing the coalition in the Emergency Operations Center will be Garrett and Jay. And Jan will be willing to serve as kind of a backup if either Garrett or Jay cannot get to the EOC on South 35th. So just wanted to share with everybody that those two folks are going to be involved if we do get into an extended cold spell or upcoming heat and or smoke situations going forward. So any questions about that from the larger group? In terms of safe sites for all, the conversations that took place at this week's meeting included further follow-up on what was happening at the Veterans Village, the FOB Hope site at South 82nd and Pacific Avenue, and discussion, as we do every week, related to safe parking status. And we will meet again this coming Monday at 12. And the link to join that meeting, anybody who's interested in helping support the idea of safe sites for all is definitely welcome to attend that hour-long meeting. And it happens every Monday at noon. And the link to the meeting is on the coalition website at pchomeless.org. So if you're new to the coalition and wonder about what other meetings take place, that's your resource. Please turn to pchomeless.org. And we are, because I didn't have Poe show up for today's meeting, we have some extra time. So this creates an opportunity to have an extended good trouble announcements section. Anybody who has anything for the good of the order that they would like to share, this would be an opportunity to do so. So just take yourself off mute or raise your hand or somehow get my attention, and we'll call on you and you can share with this group of 45 people who are in the room. Anybody have anything to share this week? Yeah, Rosemary.
This is more about the upcoming memorial on the 21st of December. I forget exactly how it's titled, but it's a memorial to honor those who've died while homeless. And so I know that's going to happen at Shiloh Baptist Church. I don't have the time. I wasn't expecting to announce it, but I wanted people to get it on their calendars if they can. And the coalition will be doing a variety of things, I think, in relation to that. So if Ed or Jeffrey has something to say about that, that might help people to know what to put on their calendar, that'd be great.
Thank you, Rosemary. And I'll paste this from the coalition website, has the details. Again, that's the pchomeless.org site. That memorial will take place on the 21st at 6 p.m. at Shiloh Baptist Church. And I know Ed Jacobs is not here right now. But he would love that we were sharing that. Ed, I see you raised your hand, or actually Jeffrey, sorry.
Yes, I really want to encourage everyone to participate. We had over 200 deaths last year, or this year. And I think it's appropriate for all of us who work to save their lives to make it a livable environment for all these people out here. Come and say your remembrances to those who we lost. We work very hard, all of us, to keep them alive, keep everybody out there living in tents, in storefronts, in cars, RVs. We do everything we can to keep them alive, and we're not always able to. So please, please come and share your remembrances and keep them in your prayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Anyone else have items for the good of the order? Ryan.
This might be a little show and tell, but one of my residents who is formerly homeless designed this lovely stove. It's a coffee can, 2 plates, and a couple other things for burning hand sanitizer as a heat source, but not burning down your tent. So anyway, I thought that was pretty creative, and he's going to share it with some of his old comrades. And I don't know, we might see these popping up all over the place.
Thanks, Ryan. Jan, did you want to share something?
Yes, I do. I am going to be retiring, and the agency was warned that we have to go and use a professional search firm, and that's like $40,000. And $40,000 can be spent more effectively in the community. So please help me prove everybody that said we needed a professional search team wrong by getting the word out and having people go to our website. And thank you.
Thank you, Jan.
So Jan,
Yeah.
this is the description of the job description and all the requirements on your website. I haven't looked at that. So is that where you'd find it?
Yes, it is. And but you don't have to apply. We'll just hire you.
Oh, I was thinking about passing the word around, but thank you very much.
Oh, okay. And I'm looking forward to then being more involved with.
I was thinking you might be a little vulnerable there.
Yeah, but after a couple months worth of traveling first.
Excellent. Good plan.
Jan, can you put your website in the chat?
Yes, sorry.
That would be fantastic. All right. Anyone else who has something that they would like to share with the full group? Yeah, Courtney.
Yeah, Ryan, coffee can heater inspired me. I think I found last winter on Twitter. I feel like it's a trustworthy source, but I have neither tried this heater and the Lived Experience Coalition does not endorse it because we have not discussed it, but I dropped it in the chat. And I think the estimated cost is like $7 for each one.
Cool, check it out. And Rosemary?
I just wanted to add that Teresa isn't here this morning. She had another thing she had to do, but the 99 Stockings project is going very well. And if there are people on the call who have needs for somebody to receive a small gift at the time of Christmas, there's still time to let her know. I'll put her email in the chat and you can let her know that way. We may not have much. We've had a lot of good collections, but we still need things. So that I'm not sure if that information is up on our website either, but anyway, I'll put Teresa's email in the chat. And if you're something in your agency that either has something to share or something you need, it's a good time to see if there's anything available.
Thank you, Rosemary. And yeah, I was looking through my browser here to see if I had the link to the spreadsheet for 99 Stockings. I don't seem to still have it open in my browser, but that would be a good thing to share as well. So I know that my coworker Poe was unable to join us this morning, but I did want to share, just for people who might have an interest, I'm dropping the link to a video that was from a budget advocacy session that was hosted by the Washington Low Income Housing Alliance yesterday. This video features my colleague Michelle from the Housing Alliance walking through the budget related asks and priorities that the Housing Alliance is asking advocates to step up for in the upcoming legislative session. And so if folks have an interest, that's a hour-long video talking about the state budget and issues related to low-income housing and homelessness on a statewide level. So I will double back and just so you know, I will post to our email list for the full coalition the priorities for the Washington Low Income Housing Alliance, so that those can be shared with everybody ahead of next week's meeting. Because next Friday, that would be good information to have going into that meeting. And I will get Poe to join us at another time since it appears he had some issue this morning. So anyone else with any items for the good of the order? All right. Anything that folks would like to share about how today's meeting went? What could be done better next time? What should be done better next time? And what we should try to include in upcoming meetings. Anybody want to drop anything in the chat or say a word about what went well today or what didn't go so well? Always love to get feedback. And the chat is open for you to do that at any time, obviously. And then the last thing that we wanted to wrap up today's meeting with is just an opportunity. If anybody has a success story that they would like to share, to send us off on a good note into the weekend. All right. Well, if you do have something to share, please use the chat. It's great to see everybody. I see the number of folks in the meeting has dwindled a bit. Let's go ahead and wrap up today early. And as always, if you have the capacity to help planning for upcoming meetings, we're going to take a little 5-minute break and we'll stay right here in this room to do planning after 5 minutes. For the rest of you, have a great weekend. We'll see you all next week.